Hey, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about a cool knife. This video is in response to Slip Joint Sawyer's Sheffield Sunday. And so I'm going to pick this one right here. This knife was made in Sheffield by Westinghouse. Pretty cool little knife here with a interesting and confusing history. So I'd like to hear more about this knife and talk about the origins of this knife. Um, Go ahead and check out the video. All right, welcome back to the fortified castle deep in the West Georgia hills. Today we're going to be talking about this knife, but first I want to say hi to all my viewers, and I want to alert you, alert. We got a live show coming up Tuesday. That's this Tuesday. Stephen from Patty's Tailor Peeler will be there, and we're going to be talking about who makes the best knife in the world. And so that's going to be a really interesting show. Of course, if you show up for the live show and you make comments, we're going to talk about those comments because we want to hear what you think, who makes the best knife in the world. So it promises to be a very stimulating and rousing show. I hope that you all make it. So let's see, where were we? Okay, we said hi to all the viewers. Thank you. And let's talk about this knife here. This knife is 3 3/8 inches long. The scales are clad in, as you can see, brass. It has this word here that's called Tyne, 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 and these were called Tyne knives. But this is what we call a peach pruner, and that's why I've got some of these on the table here. Yeah, I'm going to talk about that in a minute. So let's just go over the knife here. 3 3/8 inches long, hefted in solid brass scales. You can see the brass on the inside there. This is not hollow. So this is a pretty hefty little knife, even though it's small. Let me give you an idea. This is an electrician's knife, 3 5/8. You can see the knife compared to that. This is a pruner, and you can see it compared to your average pruner. Here's another one right here, and here is an electrician's knife, 3 3/4 inches. You can see it compared to that. And so it's really not a big knife. Matter of fact, most little jackknives, Stockmans, would be about this size, if not as wide here. It is a sway back design, so you have this cool sway back here, which I'm not a big fan of that. But then you have the huge thread here on your bolster, and it's pinched. So it has a pinch and threaded bolster. Really nice. This is kind of old school. And then you have a separate thread right here. Of course, this is all integral. It's an integral design, so your scales and bolsters are one piece. You can see that right there. That's your back spring down there. Beautifully done, by the way. This is stout, but not as stout as a lot of your English knives. And so it's a solid 6 for sure, but definitely not as stout as many of these knives. You can see a really nice transition right here. There's the George Westinghouse mark right there. And there's your tank shot. Maybe we can get down. You can see a little bit in there. It's kind of rough inside there, not really polished at all. Not really cleaned up either. There's a little pin here that goes, that's the pin right there. You can see that down there. You probably can't because of the light. There you go. see it a little bit right there. Okay, has a lanyard hole in it too. So, nice little knife, and it's called a peach pruner. Why is it called a peach pruner? I don't really know. When I looked up this model number or pattern, it was called a peach pruner. And so we'll get into the history of that right now. So first, take a close look at this. What you have on the geometry of this is the spine of the knife starts out here and kind of rounds over the whole entire time, very much like a Wharncliffe. However, Wharncliffes usually come up some here before they roll down. It's not really, it's more just a continuous curve, like a Wharncliffe. But on a Wharncliffe, I don't know why this is not snapping in. On a Wharncliffe, the edge of your knife is straight all the way across. And as you can see here, it's curved. And the thing about this is this curve follows the spine. So as you follow the curve around on this, the edge around on this, you can see it's right in line with the spine and then narrows towards the end here. And that is unique. That's a little different, and I'll show you what I mean. So here's a Cutmaster. This is a standard pruner that we would think of. They're usually quite thick and hefty. It comes out, and then right about a third into your blade, it starts curving to a point here. On the pruner, you can see the blade is straight, or the spine is straight, and then comes over and starts curving down like a sheep's foot, but continues past the edge to create this hook or bill. Way back when, 14th century, 15th century, they called them bill knives. Very similar to this, much larger though. They were much larger, and people actually hacked with them. And they were used for pruning, for clearing out fields. And there's a picture I'm showing you right now up here of a diagram of one from de Cotelier, a manuscript written in the 1770s by a Frenchman, detailing the history and making of French knives. And you can see there, it's kind of got the hawk bill that we know. So here's another one, very similar. This is a Russell, Green River Works, hawkbill. Same thing, very similar geometry, just a little different. And most hawkbill pruners are like that. This blade comes from that. Very similar to a hawkbill, just scaled down. You put it on an electrician's knife. They've been on there for a long time, since the beginning of the 20th century. They've been putting these on electrician knives. And anyhow, this is different. You can see it's different. And so where does this come from? What is the meaning of this word? And how long have these been around? Well, I'll show you a picture right now. So this is a picture of a Martin Brothers catalog from 1860. You could see the second knife from the left there. Looks very much like this knife right here. The blade profiles is almost exactly the same. And the end knife is also the same way, almost exactly the same as the blade geometry on this knife. And then if you look at the second picture, you'll see that's a description of the knives I just showed you in the previous picture. And you can see that one of them is called a pruner, and they just carried that name down. So those knives we just looked at that looked a lot like this were called just pruners. And so if you fast forward to this picture right here, which is from a Thomas Turner catalog in 1890, you can see up at the top there a peach pruner. And you can see the name underneath that, and it's exactly the same knife as this knife right here. And so by 1890 at least, that nickname had applied to this knife, a peach pruner. The interesting thing is here's a catalog picture from 1884. It's a Hibbert, Bartlett, and Spencer catalog, and you see there's no peach pruners in that catalog. This next one is a Keen Cutter catalog from 1924. Again, you can see regular pruners, but you don't see any peach pruner there. And so I think these were largely products of England and used locally in England. The pruners that Americans tended to use late in the 1800s and early in the 1900s were large, like this. 4 inches, 4¼ inches, 4½ inches. They were large, robust pruners. I think these were intended for gentry, for people that could afford to garden, who were not. There's a difference between gardening and horticulture, where you're actually growing, for instance, a field of grapes, right? You plant a bunch of grapes on the hill. Those are usually intended, you may take some for yourself, but you're going to sell a lot of those. And so those types of operations, large scale growing, used heavier, more robust tools. And I think these type of tools were used for more elite type of gardeners, which if you garden in 1860 up to, let's say, 1920, you weren't using these special tools. You were using any old knife you could get a hand of. On a lot of times, you just use pruning shears to prune your bushes. So on the forums, this is a cool little knife. It hasn't passed the attention of knife collectors, and you can find a lot of questions about this knife and a lot of different information on forums about it. Nobody really knows, okay? I've never found any definitive information on this knife. Tyne, right here. Why did Westinghouse put Tyne on here? Well, Westinghouse wasn't the only one. So you can find this exact same knife with different marks on it, with Vulcan, with Joseph Rogers, other manufacturers, even manufacturers you've not even seen. So that tells me, one, it was in production. It sold briskly, at least, to people that were interested in gardening. And some of the folks have said this is the name of a food company, a large food company in England, and they used to do giveaways and to entice people to shop there. And they surmised that this knife was a giveaway from that company. But this knife in particular is not an inexpensive knife. And so, especially in the 1920s, brass was in short supply after World War I in England, and then again in the 1940s, again at war. And so brass wasn't really cheap in England. It was in America, but not in England. And so I don't really buy that. An alternate explanation is that this is the River Tyne, a mention of the River Tyne in northern England. And one of the things I found out about my research about that, a lot of folks have put that connection to this knife, but it's so far away from Sheffield, it doesn't really make sense why Sheffield would be putting that on their knife. However, up in that area, just a little south of the Tyne River, there was a abundant peach orchards, and so it was just an area kind of like Napa Valley is famous for grapes. This area up in the Tyne River region was known for its peaches. And so this may be a reference to that. And maybe even somebody from that area helped design this knife. I don't really think so. I think if you look back in history, you can see this type of blade, in the 1860 Mappin Brothers catalog. So I think it's been around a long time. It's just been called a peach pruner fairly recently in the around the 20th century. And last thing I'll show you is this is a catalog from Westinghome dating to 1960. You can see this exact knife in that catalog. And so this knife in particular with the tang stamp here, I would say it's between 1960 and 1970, perhaps even 1950, but probably 1960 to 1970s on this knife. And so I think that's where this came from. I think this is a reference to the Tyne River region that was growing peaches in northern England. It's not unheard of. I think when you put a name on a knife like this, there's meaning to that. It's not accidental. It's not a flippant thing. It's not an advertising thing. And it seems to be fairly widespread in England. A lot of different companies made these Tyne knives. Not always this style. Some were like Barlow's. You seen that same thing with the Ettrick. The Ettrick knife Ettrick is a region in across the border from England in Scotland, and that knife has a local history being used for small game, skinning small game, and so that knife, which was called an Ettrick knife, I think gets its name from the region in which people use that style knife. So that's what I think happened here. I think this knife definitely is talking about the Tyne River. That's my theory, and I'm sticking to it. Hope you enjoyed the video. I really appreciate y'all for dropping in and checking this out. Check out Slip Joint Sawyer. Matt has a great show. He is the supreme knife reviewer, so he does a better job than anybody I've ever seen at objectively looking at a knife and being able to describe what he sees to the viewer. And he just does a fantastic job. If you've never checked his channel out, go ahead and check it out. And thanks again for tuning in. Check us out Tuesday. Man, it's going to be a lively show. I can guarantee you that. There are going to be a lot of different opinions on who makes the best knife in the world. It's going to be fun. So I'll see you later.